both on the wall and on the computer. So it's time to call the USD 290 board meeting to order with 6 members present. In terms of the agenda for tonight and the consent agenda, I'd like to make one minor change under board reports 5.02. I'd like to add an executive session for personnel. Okay. At that time. So
at what point?
At the 5.02 under the board reports. So if, yeah, no, that's this one. Yep. So if you all would, do I entertain a motion to approve an amended agenda? Okay, moved by David.
Second.
Seconded by Brian. All in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0. Do we have any comments from the public? All righty. Moving on to section 5.01, communities and schools. Brooke?
This is my first time at a school board meeting, so I'm kind of excited to be here. Thank you for letting us be here this evening. And I am Brooke Riffle. I'm representing communities and schools tonight. I am the chair of that board, so that's why I'm here. We've presented you all with an MOU, a memorandum of understanding tonight because we have started working on our operational plans for the next few years. And within the next few years, Becky will be retiring, hopefully for her. And we need to just get your support and approval of this so that we can continue on with communities and schools. I'm proud to represent this memorandum because I love everything that communities and schools does. I'm sure you all know a lot about it already, so I won't keep everybody. I know there's a big game on tonight. But it's helped over 1,800 kids within this school district from kindergarten to seniors in high school. And so I think it's something we really want to keep around. I've got some other board members here tonight in support of this as well. So I'm not sure if you've read it yet or if you're just getting it this evening. But if there are questions, I would like you to be able to ask those and address those as needed.
Yeah, I thought it looked like a really good document, and we are very supportive of communities and schools. You all do great work, and we appreciate it tremendously.
It spells out indicators for outcomes, and
I appreciated that tremendously.
Good job, Becky.
Yeah.
Becky, I just want to say it's been impressive to see where you've started something in infancy and how you've grown it so well over the last several years, and hopefully we can expand it more to really meet the needs of all our kids in our district.
It's young things in here.
It's amazing what's been accomplished, but I think you've set the standard very high and we can move forward to the future, and we just need to keep on the right track. And remember, these are one of the dollars that, if Sam would understand, it might not be, quote, in the classroom, but it is in the classroom. So. It might not be in the 4 walls, but to me, I think it's very important.
Yeah, and there was a part that I wanted added.
In the 4 walls, these are part of the 4 walls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted a part added in there that she can't retire.
Oh, yeah, I know. We all wish that, but.
Yeah.
But when you do, we need to release a butterfly.
Yes, we do. Yeah. We do. So do I have a motion from anyone?
I'd move to approve the memorandum of understanding for the community and schools so we continue the fantastic program that's going on.
It wasn't an action item tonight.
Oh, well, we're so excited.
I know, we are. We're ready.
So we'll just save it for next time.
Could we concur that we can put it in the consent agenda?
Yep, that would be fine. We can. All right.
Cool. Susan, you're just leading so well. What can I say?
I know. Thank you, Brooke.
Okay. Becky has just said that she would like us to ask the school board to be a part of the hiring process for the next person to come on board, to have a representative from the board in that. And so we hope that you'll be able to take part in that and help us out. I don't think that's in the document.
Some of us
would be honored to do that.
Yep.
Well, then, because I have been repositioned staff, it really is important. But if it can be a mutual hiring, that would be really amazing.
Yep. We will sure do that. All right, thanks,
Thank you
Brooke.
very much.
Thank you all. All right, now, section 5.02.
Okay, I move that the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters for non-elected personnel, and that the board return to the open meeting at 7:35 o'clock in this room. Executive session is to protect the privacy interests of the and other matters on excitement. Anyone else?
I think that's it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0.
I move we can approve the consent agenda.
All right, do I have a second?
Yeah, second.
All right, moved by David, seconded by Bill. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, 6-0. Dean, your report.
First, want to talk about calendars. We put together a year-round calendar. We had kind of discussed what that would look like as a retreat. And the calendar that's attached, and if you want a hard copy, I have one here.
I want one.
You guys want
I don't
Yeah, we
need one.
got-
I'm good. I'm good with this. But
that, it has 190 student days and 218 teacher days. And what we have where it's shaded yellow are intervention days, or when we would do remediation for students. Any of this stuff obviously can change, but that was the thought, that students that needed to have more time to grasp the concepts that were taught before that would give them an extra week. We don't have to do that, obviously, but it's an option. And then the shaded gray areas are the breaks throughout the year. You can see starting in mid-July, July 10th. And then first break would be in September, the end of September, Christmas break, spring break, and then another break in June. But right now, we have 179 teacher days in the agreement. And obviously, all this stuff would have to be negotiated, and then the public sold and all of those things. But that's what an all-year calendar would look like. And again, there's several options, several things can change, but it kind of gives you an idea of how many days and when the breaks could be. The next calendar then is one that we put together that has early dismissal on every Wednesday instead of dismissing as we do now. It would be I say noon dismissal, it would probably be 12:30. We would serve lunch to the students that day, and then the rest of the day would be professional learning, community time, in-service, all those things, collaboration. It would give teachers much more collaboration. We cut out all of the full-day in-service days, except for the beginning, the pre-service days on this calendar. Very similar to what we have done in the past. Every Wednesday, like I said, would be the PLC day, which parents are accustomed to now, but it would be an earlier dismissal. This calendar has 180 teacher days scheduled in, and like I said, our agreement has 179. Student days would be 171. That counts the two parent-teacher conference days that count. Looking at minutes and hours and those things, how much time we would have built into this calendar, it would be a little over 2.5 days, which we always call snow days. If you look at May, the blue shaded area are what we designate every year as snow makeup days. If we have a winter like we did a couple of years ago, to where we missed 8 or 9 days, if you make up every day you make up here, they forgive one. So theoretically, we would have the 2.5 we already have built into the calendar, because the kids would be going that much more than what the minimum is. And then if we had other snow days, we could still, 2 snow days, we would still easily get out on, or 4 snow days, I'm sorry, we would get out on Friday the 16th still.
God bless
you.
you.
But that's kind of what that looks like. I don't think we have time, obviously, to you know, do the PR and everything that would take the all-year school concept. But this is what it is. And the other one, if this is something that you're interested in, we can get this calendar out, and obviously we could look at some of the days, could switch. This still has Good Friday in it, the Christmas break. There is a flex day, which is in the contract on December 23rd, but none at the end of the year. Those are work days. Made those changes.
Okay.
So, your thoughts on calendars?
What's the flex day on 23rd? What's going on there?
If teachers need to get their grades turned in,
Oh, okay.
that's the end of the semester. And
Okay.
if they have them turned in before that day, they don't have to come in then, or they can do them over the break. But that's the day designated for working on break.
How will the Communities and Schools program be able to adapt to having the extra time on
I
Wednesdays?
did talk to them, Becky. They can make it work. I mean, they would just have to start that much earlier. We would be looking, and I didn't get the dollar amounts. I mean, they would have to pay a little bit more for that extra hour and a half, 2 hours for their staff to come in that much earlier. And then obviously, we talked to the rec. Right now, they have some programs on those days that we don't have school all day in service. They have kids over there now, and we could work something out with them like the other days. And so.
This is not a bad option. I'm personally a fan of the year-round school concept, but
I am
I'm sure
too.
we're not going to get that this year.
But it can be something considered. We need to start talking about it.
After I
Yep.
die, you can do that.
I went to year-round school.
Just on this one calendar, Dean, does it make any sense from operations of buildings on the 3rd of January to open them up for one day, to do it one day on a Friday?
Well, that was the thought, that it would get kids, teachers, everyone started back on that
Acclimated.
Friday, and then when they came in Monday, that it would be like, it wouldn't be the first day back on.
See, I'd be more inclined to pull the vacation day on the 2nd and start them on the 2nd.
That, any of those things can work.
That Christmas break gets long.
Yeah, and that would be, if we did that, that would be 181 teacher days and 172 and a half student days, and that would give another day built into the calendar. But
Yeah, I went to year-round school through grade school, and it was, you didn't lose as much, that's for sure. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I'd rather open it for at least those 2.
Okay, yeah, I think it's
is that
definitely,
something you want me to?
I was
Yes.
just thinking of just open up a building for one day.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the logistics is to get started, or,
Well, but, I mean, we can look at the 2nd also, and then.
Yeah, I'd say let's meet on the 2nd.
Do what?
okay,
Let's bring them in on the 2nd.
all right. What else have you got, Dean? Under your report.
The next thing, I reported that we met with the governor a few weeks ago, and one of the recommendations, and one thing that he wanted some help with was his initiative that would retain 3rd graders if they weren't at the proficient level. And the document that's attached here is a draft. I'm sure the governor has it by now, but I haven't heard anything more about how that was received. But it focuses on early childhood education. It talks about advisory councils with early childhood and community input, trying to develop a plan for that. And we're doing a lot of these things already. Adequate funding. What this recommendation is, that there would be grants available for those that wanted to pursue different options And again, I think we would be a front runner for receiving a grant. And it also talks about funding all-day kindergarten, which we've asked legislators to do every year. But that would make a big difference to have that funding to put into early childhood and primary education as far as reading. It talks also about doing professional development, and through our community conversations, we've talked to ECAN about Early Head Start. They have grant money available now and feel like they may have some other opportunities. And one of the things that they had talked to the school about, if we wanted to share costs and try to combine this, more poverty training, Ruby Payne training, those things, they're struggling with the same things we do. It's been 4 or 5 years probably since we've had somebody come in. So that was another option, or another thing in the recommendation. And then literacy training, developing MTSS, which we are all doing in every building right now. And then as far as the test goes, have multiple measures and give a student 2 to 3 times to take this test. And the way I understand it now, the parent would still have the option to say, I don't want my son or daughter retained. So I think it's a very good recommendation. I hope it is considered. And you know, I would say in a few weeks, maybe we will hear something about what his plans are for the retention, 3rd grade retention model that he threw out there. Questions, comments on that?
Did you feel reassured after meeting with the governor that he was a advocate for public education in the state of Kansas?
He was it was a group of superintendents and educators, so he was
Very political?
very political, but he assured us on more than one occasion that educational funding would be held harmless. And, you know,
Too late.
Dale Dennis, Dale Dennis the other day, when he reported out to the group there at Greenbush, he really thought also that it would be flat funding for the next 2 years. Now, anything can change. If the taxes, that's not going well, it looks like, but if some things don't happen there, all bets are off, I guess. But the governor says even if that doesn't, he won't.
He'll hold it harmless.
He'll hold it harmless.
Bless his heart.
But we'll see. Coming up, we have the KASB legislative dinner. And Dennis, I signed you and Brandon up. You still planning?
Let's see, that's the,
It's the
let me go down your notes. 13th.
It's Wednesday.
Should be,
Yeah. It starts at 5:30 and goes till about 7, but it's in the sunflower room there, like same place it's always been, I'm sure.
up at the,
I wonder what the governor's literal definition of hold harmless is. Sorry. Yes. Never
Susan,
mind.
I do have a board report. We
Okay.
almost skipped over.
Yeah, well, I just skipped right over you, didn't I, Marge? Sorry. Anything else from you, Dean?
I do have a couple more
Okay.
things here real quick. Food service, the RFP was sent out on February 7th. The pre-conference or pre-proposal conference and visitation is scheduled for February 25th. Don't know how many people we'll have in, but there's been several showing interest in the RFP. And the deadline for the proposal is April 8th, and then we will open those on that date. And the time, Marge, we'll get back, but I think you and Brandon were the two that said would serve on that committee, so we'll schedule that. Have you there. Was there a time set?
10 o'clock.
Oh, 10 o'clock. Is it? Okay.
On April 8th? Okay.
And just wanted to report real quick on annual measurable objectives, AMOs. You've heard them talk about that at when they did the focus school presentation the other day, the way that we will be accredited in the future. What we have found out, the Brad Newenswanger has asked the curriculum director, superintendents, and several groups if we would support going ahead and testing as many Common Core standards as we can next year, rather than leave the state assessment the way it is. It doesn't count really for anything. And
do it as a
everyone
pilot?
agreed to, what's that?
So to do it, to test the Common Core as a pilot?
Yes, and that would give staff, there's no question then, because we struggle with, well, do we teach to the old standards or the new ones? And that was what the consent across the state really will, if it doesn't count, why not start this? The kids, everyone gets started then in that process. So the state board has to approve it. They'll make the decision, none of us will, but they're gonna be talking about that. And I hope it passes and they do that. And then on the February 25th meeting, we will have a report on our AMOs, each building, and talk about those a little bit. I did want to report another thing here on AT&T bill for internet. Blaine has done an excellent job like we knew he would, and AT&T did contact us, and it is moving up the ladder. The gentleman that, our contact can't make that decision, but it did get their attention, and we'll be anxious to see if it goes farther, so that was good.
Good news, we were down at the hospital today all day from AT&T.
At-risk waiting.
That's why you didn't respond to my email to you today about
Yeah.
business? Okay.
Yeah.
At-risk waiting definition change, this could be a pretty big deal if the legislators pass this. And what they would do is change the definition where pre-K through second grade would still count the way they do now. If their parents or their family qualifies for free lunches, they would be considered at risk, and that weighting would go for that. What the change then, 3rd through 12th grade, would be just those students that are not proficient on the state assessment would be the ones that count towards funding. You would get the weighted at-risk funding for just those kids. And the numbers, we don't have a huge amount by any means. But what would happen, the money that is in that pool at the state, they would put it on the base state aid per pupil. So districts that don't have a high at-risk population before, that didn't receive that funding, would get quite a bit more in state aid, on base state aid per pupil. And districts like ours and many others would end up losing money more than likely because we wouldn't have the same number of kids qualified. Now, the base state aid per pupil would make up a little difference, but it'd be very beneficial, as you can imagine, to Latham, Blue Valley, those districts. So.
So the students that are now at risk, but they're doing so well because of our programming, will get penalized for that.
The
Because
district
they
will be
did well on the
penalized.
test.
Well, and
Right.
this was, I mean, said as a joke at the meeting, but one of the superintendents made the comment about, well, why don't we just tell the kids that as soon as you're done with that test, we're gonna go on a field trip. And then if none of them are proficient, then you just get all this money. I mean, no
Yeah.
one would ever do that, but that's kind of the,
Well, yeah, that's.
there's no reward,
More hard work
for
and
being,
working, yeah.
doing what you're supposed to be doing. That was it.
Okay. Thank you, Dean. Back up to 5.02, Marge. Sorry.
I just wanted to say about the Eugene Field Chili Supper. If none of you were there, but it was absolutely an experience to behold. They ran out of chili, unfortunately, but the teachers were working from 7:30 in the morning to 8:30 at night. Kids from the high school volunteered to come over and bus tables. They just walked in and said, we want to help. There were 84 businesses or individual people that gave things for the auction or did something. The KU tickets was a big hit, $375. They sold for $175. I thought that was amazing. They made approximately close to $5,000 profit.
Good deal.
And the
That was-
music, there were music. There was a lady that I happen to know personally, came from Kansas City, drove down to provide music. Thanks to Lori Catlin and other people that went everywhere and asked all of these people. That took a lot of work, but it was certainly successful. And hope, wish him luck for the next time.
Absolutely.
deal.
Very successful.
Any other reports, too? All right, we'll get back on track with section 6. 6.01, capital outlay contingency budget review.
Can you pull up the facilities improvement plan first? And if you look at that, there's 3 shaded yellow areas under 2012, 2013. One is at the roof at Eugene Field, one is carpet at Eugene Field, and the last one is carpet at the middle school. Those 3 are the 3 that I'm going to recommend that we hold off on until we know more with the survey and what direction we're going to go. If you pull up the other one now, Kim, I'll kind of explain where we are with that. Right now, capital outlay budget is $1.8 million. We should have about $269,000 still remaining in building budgets and what we have for technology. If we take out those 3 projects, that the roof is $260,000, the carpet $36,000, and the other carpet $100,000, that would, and we still did the things at the bottom of the page here. Pending expenditures not approved. The playground is approved, but playground, Eugene Field playground fence, the door, foyer door and frame, occupancy sensors, bus barn overhead door, custodial, pure zone, that's reduced by $15,000. If we did those things and not the other 3, we would have an ending balance of $1.67 million at the end, or roughly that amount. I mean, there's going to be other things come up that or may come up unforeseen. If we go ahead and expend those 3 things, it's $396,000 roughly. The ending balance is going to be 1.28 to 1.3. You know, this has been whittling away a little bit at a time here, and I think we need to be mindful of where we are with that. Mm-hmm. Now, the carpet, we did have we did have the custodians, and Richard and everyone went through and looked at different carpet in rooms and came up with about $38,000 that would replace the ones that are in dire need of replacing. So, you know,
At the middle school?
What's that?
At the middle school?
Some of them are middle school, some Eugene Field.
Oh, okay.
And then look at that again next year and see where we are, and rather than do it all at once, phase some of those things in. The bus lease, we had the 3-year bus lease, that payment, we have finished that this year. That was $127,000, so that won't be an expense next year, but there's going to be a need, as always, to replace buses. We may have some need for special ed transportation, depending on if we're taking trips to Kansas City or transporting kids to Kansas City and Paola and different places. So that could play in the mix in the near future also. Again, I would want to wait and see where we are with the survey, which I have the final copy tonight if it meets your needs, and see where that comes in, and then take a hard look at where we are with possible bond issue, look at the safety, security issues, the roofs, all of those things, and maybe combine some of the real high dollar fixes into that, or see where we are after
I don't
that.
think we want to spend anything major out of capital outlay until we've done that, do we? I mean, even the 38,000 at this point.
Well, middle school needs, I mean, it's a summer project, so
Yeah,
we should have
some time.
time to know where we are with that, but we're, you know, none of this we're doing tonight, obviously. But,
Yeah, I'm just saying that, in my view, until we've done that survey and we have a clearer vision of
Right.
of the facility strategic plan, I don't think we should be spending any more money in capital outlay, unless there's an emergency issue.
Right. So, But we'll send that out hopefully next week, and, or hopefully she can get it out this week. She has all the information and all the addresses, everything she needs, so. But that's the capital outlay part. Contingency reserve balance is $1,206,000. We didn't foresee spending anything out of there this year, but with our special ed transportation and some of the excess costs there, I don't know how much we're gonna be reimbursed for special ed. I was hoping that some years you get more than what you budget. This year, Dale told us, what, 28.5, Terry? 28,500 per FTE. That's teacher, para, the formula that's used for that. So it could be less. It just depends on how many students there are. Catastrophic aid for those students that cost over $50,000. I don't think we're going to have anybody qualify this year for that. They keep raising that threshold, but other districts do. That takes out this big pool of special ed. So what we're anticipating is having to transfer $100,000 out of contingency reserve to special ed to make sure that that budget ending balance is where we need it to be. And that may not happen. We don't know till we get down to the end. But that would be one expenditure out of there that may have to happen.
Dean, we have not expended any money on buses for SPED this year, right? We talked about it, and then it disappeared
No,
in
we didn't do
thin
any
air.
this year. It was,
No.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, so why are we short? Why, say again, why we might have to transfer $100,000 to the SPED
Because
budget?
we're using other vehicles. We didn't buy the buses, but we're using other vehicles, transporting. We have more students going to Gillis, Marillac, Lake Mary, those types of.
And that wasn't in her normal budget?
No, no.
We've always done that, though, so is,
Well, but not as many. I mean, we have more.
Our
routes.
volume's up.
The volume is up.
okay.
And that's a trend, really probably statewide, but the county superintendents, we talked about that the other day, and they see the same things. I'll give you an example of Osawatomie has the state hospital and these things. They have a student, a homeless student that's 19 or 20 years old that moved from Oregon to Osawatomie and is in, whatever the name of the program is that helps homeless children and those things. I say children, it's a young adult, but he has special needs. So they have to pay the transportation and education and all of those for this 19-year-old or 20-year-old that moved from Oregon into their community. And it's just, we don't have that happening here right now, but we've just had more and more students come into the district that need extra help that way.
And Dean, don't you have some of your special needs students that you're transporting that you can't put them in the same vehicle? That was one of the issues, to where they could be going almost to the same spot, but they're driving
Yeah,
together.
due to their disabilities, you could have to transport them one-to-one.
Right.
Yeah,
And then a rider with them.
So if you get
There's
more
just a-
volume, there's just more cost.
right.
And they all have riders. I think we just actually have to hire another rider today for a student that was having some issues. And
Okay. All right, other questions for Dean? Okay. Moving on to 6.02. Neosho County Community College vocational.
Well, this is
Coursework.
good news. We have been meeting the area superintendents with Neosho County Community College about offering or trying to develop a regional vocational center. Obviously, you know, that doesn't happen overnight. There's not a facility that you could just move in and have all these programs. So what they have found as far as a welding site and program would be at Garnett in a building that they already have. They're not going to charge Neosho County or very minimal amount to start this welding program. And all the area schools could send students there. And the big thing with this, the Senate Bill 155 last year was passed that pays the tuition for those students and they pay transportation to and from wherever you transport them for their vocational training. So the welding one would start in the fall, next fall. I know, Ryan, have you got numbers or?
We don't have numbers yet, but as we
But
start.
they're working, all the schools are working on numbers. I don't imagine that it's gonna be a problem for this to fill. And then, on the next page of this is the health science. This is an option that's at the Ottawa campus right now. And same thing, there's seat requirements. They're doing some of that now, but they talked about even having their mobile lab and using another building or another room in the same building to offer this down at Garnett for people that live closer there. Or if we had students that had fit their schedule, we could bus our students down there and get the same education. And again, it would be tuition-free. What we're working on is some way to help pay for supplies and those things so students wouldn't have that cost. All of these programs are certificate programs. When they graduate, they are ready for the workforce and doing everything that our legislators see important, which I totally agree with. I think this was one of the best things that they've done. On page 3, these are a list of courses that are offered out here on campus that all qualify for tuition-free courses. So we have students that could enroll in any of these courses, and if we had teachers at OHS that would teach dual credit, none of them would have to pay tuition. So again, I just think it's a very, very good thing that is starting to happen here, and I hope it continues. On the last page then is the construction technology class or classes that it wouldn't start till the fall of 2014. It would be not next year, the year after. But I think it would be a very beneficial class. It would be similar to what we offer, if not more, probably more. But the bad thing is it wouldn't start for another year.
But it's a way to get that
Start.
program back.
Yes, and I think, and they would do, this is still in the works, but depending on where students came from and if they would find spots in Ottawa, facilities that they could use, they would do whatever they can. I think honestly, and I shouldn't say this probably, but their long-range plans, and they can't do a bond issue, they can't do those things. It all has to be through fees and tuition, those types of things. But they still have several acres out where they built the new college to build a vocational center there. So they're really working on it, and I was really impressed how fast they did it and what they've come up with. So good news.
And then does this fit in to the 21-hour high school diploma to make it easier for these kids since they're
All
going
of
to?
these courses will be concurrent courses. So
Concurrent course.
They'll be offered not only to students in Future Vision, so even a 30-year-old student that's enrolled in a high school course in Future Visions, I believe is eligible for Senate Bill 155. It'll also be open for virtual school kids, our OLC kids, and our high school kids. So
Perfect.
anybody that's enrolled in USD 290 in any of those areas will receive the benefit of Senate Bill 155 progressively. You think about what we could do with some of our OLC kids, almost their entire program could be a certificate program as long as we got them through the requirements of the 16 credit requirements. The rest of it could be this, could be a huge thing for them.
You sure could.
Huge.
So it could be really good.
Thank you.
All right. Other questions? All right, moving on to section 6.03, final draft of the survey.
That's attached, and if you have no objections, I will have Elaine get this out. She has the list of all the USD 290 registered voters and whatever formula she uses to do the random sampling, and they'll do some phone surveys, they'll do all kinds of things to gather the data. And when I talk to her, I'll give you a report on where we are and how long that process may take. I think everything that we had talked about is now included in here, so.
Look good to me.
It looked good to me.
I agree.
We had it presented. All right, cool. Sounds good.
Go dog go.
You don't want action on that, do you? Do we need
Was that an
action?
item?
I don't know if it is.
Consensus?
Okay,
It's fine with me.
all right. Then moving on to
And-
section 7.
We may not need, is that negotiation?
Yeah. 7 is,
Consultation with attorney.
yeah, that's what moved up earlier.
Attorney, negotiations, and personnel.
Yeah.
That one was
I think we don't need
Should
7,
be
we need
8
8.
now.
in case of a mic thing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we don't need section
That's
7?
coming next week.
That's next week.
Coming next week.
Yeah,
Right.
in the next meeting.
Okay.
How
So
long's the
section 8?
negotiations?
Section 8, isn't that like you get crazy?
Brian, what do you think? 10 minutes enough for negotiations?
Probably.
Yeah, I think, I have the.
What'd you say?
handout.
How long?
10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Madam President, I move the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing matters related to employer-employee negotiations, whether or not in consultation with a representative or representatives of the body, and that the board return to the open meeting at 8:20 o'clock in this room. Executive session is required to protect the district's right to the confidentiality of its negotiating position and the public interest.
Second.
All right, moved by David, seconded by Bill. All in favor?
Really
Raise
just
your
got
right
8
hand.
minutes, you gotta hustle.
6-0.
Marge's voting up there, 6-0. What's the, how long do we need for the next?
Where's Dean?
How long do we need for personnel?
How long do you guys need? And then Brian and I have a couple things for, won't take long.
10 minutes.
Let's start with 10 and go from there.
Okay. Madam Chairman, I move that the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters for non-elected personnel, and that the board return to open meeting at, let's say, 8:35, just to be on the safe side. In this room, the executive session is required to protect the privacy interests of an identifiable individual, and that the dean and assistant dean will be in, that dean and the assistant superintendent will be in the room.
Second.
All right. Moved by Bill, seconded by Brian. All in favor? 6-0. Personnel list. I think we have a change on that list.
It's on the computer. Just read that. They're all listed there.
The change is not on the computer.
Yeah, we have one resignation that is not accepted, correct?
Yeah.
So do I have a motion to approve the list minus the resignation?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, moved by David, seconded by Bill. Any discussion?
The might mention the resignations we are accepting.
Okay, we are accepting.
Stenzel and Holthaus.
Right. Rachel Holtos and Diana Stenzel. Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0. Announcements. Dean.
Okay. Wednesday, I already mentioned KASB Governmental Relations Seminar in Topeka. Dennis, Brandon, and I will be attending the legislative dinner then at 5. That's also Council of Superintendents meeting at Kansas State Department of Ed office. We have a PDC meeting, but it's going to be done through email this month. Legislative Action Committee is next week. I mentioned that, and I'll set the board orientation for new board members. Right, tentatively, we have that scheduled for May 4th. If we're not negotiating, and I don't think we will be at that time. Monday, the 18th, is our first IBB meeting. That'll be at 5 o'clock in the office here. Tuesday, Shannon and I will meet with Janice for focus school training and those things, and get a little bit farther. The report Shannon gave last time, we just had completed that assessment. Hopefully, we'll have all the results and be able to use that data to make the take the next steps.
Dean, I don't mean to interrupt, but Is the joint city-county, was that the water discussion this month, or was that next
No,
month?
Yes.
that's the next one.
Okay, so this month is
Yeah,
just,
February 20th,
just standard meeting.
yes, is
Okay.
at City Hall, or no, I'm sorry, is at the county annex. The next one was at City Hall when they're doing the water stuff, so
Okay,
we
all right.
probably won't participate. But this one, I will not be able to go to. I'm gonna be at Ottawa University. They're having all the county superintendents do a forum for their education students and stuff. I hate to miss that, so
Yeah, no, you need
I'll
to
see
do that.
if Brian can make it to the county luncheon.
Mhm.
But that'll be at noon at the county annex.
Okay.
Next board meeting then the 25th, 25th. We'll plan on 5 o'clock having our IBB meeting and then the board meeting at 7. Next CAC meeting is Tuesday the 26th. And the next legislative coffee, Saturday, March 2nd. And the mayor's prayer, that's a ways off, but that's March 8th. Just let me know if you think you can attend that, and I will get everybody signed up.
Okay,
That is it.
all right.
All right.
Questions for Dean? Do I have a motion?
I would move that we adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
6-0.